just produce the thing and chuck it over the wall and give feedback, work on something else, and there's a sort of feeling of parallelization there. The longer you spend on a piece of content, the more risk is inherent in the content. It took me a long time too to get over the fact that, oh, this isn't like another crypto bubble. This isn't another Web 3.4.5. I think it's possible to ride two horses, but I also just like riding the horse that I'm on.
Hello, Internet. Welcome back to the Code and Content Podcast, the podcast for conversations at the intersection of code and content. Today's guest needs no introduction. Matt Pocock is the face and voice of TypeScript, among other things, in a growing portfolio of knowledge from a trusted source. It was great talking to Matt about not only creating content, but the review and feedback and the life cycle of content, how important it is to get feedback and respond to it, finding out your audience, and the opportunities and challenges that are presented to content authors in the age of AI. If you're enjoying this podcast, make sure you subscribe below to our YouTube channel, leave some comments, subscribe in your podcast player if you're just listening to the audio version. And with all of that, I'm going to hand over to today's guest. Matt, welcome to the Code and Content Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Simeon. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, and I was happy to meet you a few weeks ago and get the opportunity to invite you along. But I've wanted to talk to you because for some time, I remember seeing a tweet from you a while ago where you said that you'd built your own CMS, or you were building your own CMS. And maybe this is a fizzer of a first question. Maybe that's something you gave up because I haven't heard you talk about it since. But I'm always curious about that. I think every developer has toyed with it, done it to some point. Is that still an ongoing project, the building your own CMS? And is that where you manage your content day to day? Or can you tell me about that one?
So when I'm building my courses, for normal content, I don't usually worry about like custom CMS stuff or anything too crazy. For the courses, though, because it has so many weird demands, like everything has to be perfectly sequential. It's like often you have to move things around in different sections. I do a very strict kind of mode when I'm building courses, which is I have like a problem setup and a solution setup. Anyone who's taken any of my courses like Total TypeScript will know that. And so I have very strict requirements as to the structure of the content that I wanted to output. And so, yeah, for about 2 months or so, I was building my own CMS and trying to like get that working and having a whole UI for doing it. But I sort of have drifted away from that again, and I'm now building another smaller CMS, which is just going to be like a TUI in the terminal, because I just want to speed up. Like I'm obsessed whenever I'm doing this stuff, obsessed by just trying to get things faster, trying to hack away like bloat in my process, because not only does that make me faster and make me output better stuff faster, it also just makes it more enjoyable for me. I really hate waste of any kind when I'm working on this stuff, because I know you have kids and I have a kid now. And so any time that I'm not spending with them is sort of like feels bad to me. So I want to make sure that my time is used as productively as possible. So what I noticed the waste is I was having to like manually name and number all of these exercise files, keep them in sync, move them around in different bits. And I'm working on a TUI right now, or rather I have a background agent that's working on the TUI right now, actually, as we speak.
Of course.
That is going to kind of like filter these around for me. So I thought about a CMS and I built it actually. But now I've gone for a smaller version of that that's kind of synced to Git.
I think every course creator has built some version of their own LMS, CMS along the way. That's interesting. TUIs are the new hotness, aren't they? And it's funny, we had a meetup with one of our own engineers here internally that was using one of our new React libraries to essentially rebuild the Sanity Studio CMS in the terminal as well. So it's all the rage at the moment, which is very cool.
It is very cool.
Is part of the motivation for managing content in that regard because you have other people involved in the process? I know that like your brand is you, but how many other people actually see your content, review, maybe suggest edits, or actually make changes to content before you publish?
Great question. So it depends on what I'm doing. With paid course material, I team up with some guys at badass.dev, who is basically, this is Joel Hooks' company. Joel Hooks, absolute genius course creator, genius partner of people like Kenzie Dodds and me and all sorts of folks, and has a platform that he's sort of built and is sort of working towards. And he also has a team of folks working underneath him. So for every piece of content or every course that I create, we sort of split up the work in various ways. Obviously, I do all the video, all the course structuring, and they do help in terms of structuring the course and helping me out there. But for a while, like all of the writing was actually done by other folks. So I would sort of, because I like to have like a video on screen, but also an article below. If you, for instance, just can't view the video or prefer writing, that's a perfectly reasonable mode to do as well. So for a while, they were actually doing the writing. So by doing the writing, they review the content, they make sure it's clear, they give me any feedback, and if I need to re-record, I do. So yeah, I mean, a lot of what I produce in terms of the course material is all in partnership with them. And honestly, having that is just so relaxing in a way, because you can just produce the thing and chuck it over the wall and give feedback, work on something else, and there's a sort of feeling of parallelization there. Whereas if I were doing it on my own, I would feel pretty naked, I think, or I would feel like I would miss things. You don't have so many review cycles as you're going through. So I think that mode of sort of chucking it, getting feedback, chucking over the wall, is just so crucial.
Is that something that you've always done? I know I can probably get overly defensive of my own work at times, and so like putting it out for feedback is like, oh, what if somebody really hates this? And then then you go through that review process. Is that something you've just gotten used to, or I guess you said that early on other people were doing the writing, so maybe that collaborative process has always been the way you've worked with content?
I don't know. I mean, I've worked with content for a long time. So before I was even a developer, I was a singing teacher and voice coach. And if you look on my YouTube channel, or my previous YouTube channel as a voice and accent coach, there's lots of little accent videos. What you'll notice about those videos is that they're not edited really at all. It's just me talking. And I decided pretty early on that the way to get better at producing content, produce more content, was actually to cut review cycles. So to cut down on the amount of times I looked at the content before I sent it. So often what I would do is I would just literally film the video. I would look at the audio like in the bottom of the bar and just cut the start and end off. And then I would ship it. So I wouldn't even watch myself back, because I know when I've done a good take and when I've done a bad take. I'm sure quite a lot of people do, right? I don't think that's special to me. And so what I do now is I do exactly the same thing. It's a bit more sophisticated. I sort of have like an auto editor that sort of cuts out bits of stuff, but it's the same thing. Cutting down on review cycles actually means I can ship more code. And if I ship something bad, then I either just delete it or I update it, and I think I don't really try not to worry too much about shipping something that's bad, because I just rely on the feedback that I'm getting, and most of it is good, right?
I think I did that recently with a video. There was something which I thought was impressive, but I wasn't sure if it was wrong or and so I put out a video because I thought, well, this is going to be the fastest way to find out if I'm actually stupid.
Yeah.
Is that somebody's going to tell me. And thankfully I didn't really get any feedback either way. So maybe everyone was just being kind, or maybe I had not really stumbled on something that amazing. But it is a matter of putting yourself out there and putting content out and seeing where it lands then, rather than trying to perfect something before releasing anything.
Absolutely. I mean, the longer you spend on a piece of content, the more risk is inherent in the content, and
it has to work then.
It has to work. Yeah. If you spend 6 months on something, it has to work. Like, if you were really risking a lot there. And even if you spend an hour on it and it's like a 2-minute piece of content, it has to work. So reducing the amount of time you spend on things, reducing review cycles, cutting down bloat in your process, it's all about reducing the risk of that I think a lot of us feel as content creators, which is what happens if this goes out into the world and does nothing, which is something that happens to me again and again and again and again and again. And the only way I can justify continuing to do that is to refine my process and make producing bad content less risky.
That's interesting too, is having the reflex to actually sort of step back and work out what's working and what's not, and refine not only your process, but like what you are actually putting out there. I know I can tend to get tunnel vision and just want to keep doing the thing that's in front of me. Do you have like a process to actually step back and say, okay, well, this format of content's working, or this particular angle is working? Are you methodical about that, or is it based on intuition of what's working or what's making you happy, I suppose, about what you're publishing?
It's based on vibes. Yeah. I'm sort of permanently online, really. And and that I don't particularly enjoy that part of my job, but I kind of have to be, because you can just get a feel for when something's really working.
Mm.
I posted a lot about XState when I was first starting out. XState is a wonderful library that I was part of the core team of for about a year or two, and when I was posting about XState, I was getting some feedback, especially from the XState community, but not really from outside there. So I would see the same faces popping up, commenting, saying, yeah, this is great, again and again and again. I grew my following slightly. But as soon as I started posting on TypeScript, people I didn't know were commenting. Lots and lots of likes were pouring in. I was getting tons of followers as well. You just get the feeling. So I'm pretty obsessive about checking analytics, I mean, not even in a particularly in-depth way, just seeing, does number go up? And if number goes up, then I feel like I've done a good job, or I'm hitting on something useful. And then I rewatch the content and review it then to see if I've see what particularly was catching people about it. I don't know if that's particularly scalable, but it's worked for me just in terms of building an audience.
And if you are following that intuition, like you were, I'm guessing you were somewhat interested in XState to end up on the core team then, and then interested in TypeScript. It's not as if it was a calculated decision to say, this is what's hot now, therefore I'm going to chase the market that's already there, right?
Yes, although I had a choice, right? I could have, I noticed that TypeScript was kicking off, and I could have gone, no, I'm going to choose XState instead. So there is an element of calculation there. I'm currently in that mode at the moment, actually. I'm thinking about doing a course about a relatively small library that's pretty hot right now called Effect. Effect is kind of a massive batteries included framework that people find quite hard to learn. So I think a course would actually be really, really cool. But I have to be pretty brutal about whether I choose to do it or not, because there's all this stuff happening with like AI right now. And like AI and TypeScript is actually a really sick combination. I've got a course that's come out that's doing really, really well. I could continue to do more AI stuff, or I could continue to go with kind of more of a passion project, which is this effect stuff that's coming out. Obviously, I really like the AI stuff too, but I'm kind of just, there's only space for one thing in my mind at the moment, and currently it's effect. So those kind of decisions, about what you focus on, they have to be business decisions in the end, because it's my time I'm risking.
I think this is one of the most interesting things too, sort of watching your career from the sidelines, or from Twitter, the other side, via the algorithm. And I think you are having a maximal impact on the amount of effect mentions in my timeline at the moment. It's funny, you describe it as a small library because I can't get away from it in my timeline at the moment, and I hold you responsible for that.
So
no, don't apologize. I'll probably boot up at some point. But this is what's very interesting to me is TypeScript is a high trust space. XState high trust space as well. AI is a magnet for a very different sort of person. You probably know where I'm going with this. And you've built a very solid reputation, of course, but now you're entering into space where there's a lot of people of less repute. Is that a concern? Because I don't think anybody would say, "Oh, you've lowered your colors moving into the AI space," but it's a less trustful space, and I suppose does that present the opportunity to be the trusted name in the space of AI? I suppose, or like, did you have any thoughts or trepidation about moving into a space that I think that AI skepticism is over, but I guess what was your thoughts about moving into that space when there was a lot of questions around it?
Yeah, I suppose I do have a trusted base of people. People trust me because I like what I do, and I try to put a lot of effort into it. And I suppose there is a USP there about being the trustworthy voice in a space that's full of, can I swear on this podcast? Like full of...
You can.
I can? Okay. Full of rubbish, let's say.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
I was wondering which one you were going to go with. Like, I was kind of on there. I should bleep it out anyway, and now no one will know.
Yes, exactly. Really fun. So yeah, and it's full of grifters and full of VC-funded rubbish. And I think it took me a long time too to get over the fact that, oh, this isn't like another crypto bubble. This isn't another Web 3.4.5. This is a real thing, and based on decades of research that is actually providing a lot of value and will continue to provide a lot of value in really boring ways. And so I think maybe some people were looking for an excuse to like it. Some people were looking for an excuse to get into it. I feel like my AI content has not like landed with the big splash that other stuff has. I know people are finding it very useful, which is good. But this is such a crowded field, and I was expecting my course to not do that well. It turns out it's done really well.
Mm.
So, I mean, that's great. And so I'm just sort of getting mixed signals from. I don't really have a good read on the ecosystem as it is right now. I think everything's changing so fast.
Yeah, it is changing so fast. I think in the short time I've had this podcast together, like I've talked to people about AI and felt like I've really learned something there. And then 6 weeks later, like the whole landscape changes anyway, so that makes it difficult. But as somebody who writes learning material for a product that's constantly changing, I know how that works too. So that's all part of the gig. The new AI course too, it's in a cohort-based model. Does that mean you're going through it with people as well?
Yeah, it's a really cool experiment for me. It's experimental in all sorts of ways. This course, actually, I was really trying to create a course that was ready for the AI era, and the way that we've done that is we've built a project-based course. So you work in a single repo. Each exercise, you add stuff to the project, you add stuff to the project, and each exercise is a prompt. So you basically have a single prompt that you then
Mm.
copy paste into your IDE. You watch the agent do its work and you read all the code and you check the behavior and test what it's doing. And you watch me do the same thing. So it's really like IDE friendly, IDE ready. And doing that in a cohort means that if the AI goes off the rails, then you've got people and you've got me around to help. And most of it's going to be done just via Discord server, essentially just me being in the chat, maybe recording little videos to help people out and sort of sending them all that sort of stuff, and then a few live interactions and that kind of thing. I'm really excited by that model because I mean, we've got about 1,000 people on the cohort, like it's a huge thing, and
Wow.
1,000 people working on it at the same time. That's going to be such good vibes. It's going to be
Yeah.
really fun. It starts on July 14th. I don't know when this is coming out, but so yeah, I've just taken 2 weeks off. I'm going to like just be on the cohort as much as I can, be on Discord as much as I can. It's going to be really fun, and I'm sort of thinking, oh yeah, maybe I should run a like a total TypeScript workshop like this. Like it's such an event. It feels really fun to do. And we'll see. Like we'll see how it ends up going, but I've got a good feeling about it.
Yeah, no, I think it's almost necessary. I know I was in a previous role here at Sanity. I was more customer facing, so you sort of got that regular feedback from people. But I do wonder about when you become a course content creator at scale. Obviously, getting feedback from tweets and that occasionally, but probably not the same one-on-one experience or direct feedback as people are working through the course. And that'd be, I imagine, pretty interesting to be able to get that immediate responses to things.
Totally, and then feed that back into the course and like improve it over time. Maybe run a future cohort, all that stuff.
Absolutely. I think that feedback's invaluable. I've got a feedback form on the bottom of every lesson on Sanity Learner that hits a Slack message, and I plead with people like, consider that my DMs. Like I want to know, is there a spelling mistake or a confusion or something? And so it's one click to go in and change those things and fix them up. That feedback's critically
Totally.
important.
Yeah, I mean, feedback's the whole game, really. Like we were talking about like content for social media as well. Like any feedback that you get from there, you should be writing down, recording. Any negative feedback too is just it's a blessing. Like if someone's brave enough to give you some negative feedback, then
Yeah.
that's obviously something that has even if they make a suggestion that isn't right, if they push you in a direction that you actually don't want to go in, like just the fact that they're feeling something bad about your content is a really good signal of something. And so you may need to do a bit of work to find out what that is. But yeah, all feedback is a gift.
Yeah, and you get to check that curse of knowledge thing too, because I know there was one particular thing in one of our courses that I kept getting feedback every so often, and every time it'd come in, I'm like, "How are you getting that wrong?" And it only dawned on me when I looked at it like the third or the fourth time. I'm like, "Oh, I see what everybody's tripping up on this. Well, these few people are tripping up on this same thing. I just couldn't see it because I was too close to what I thought I was
100%.
teaching people."
Yeah, it's the kind of like confusion. I actually have a folder in my sort of repo of like just confusions of people getting confused by things, and I write down all the things that this is what I'm looking forward to doing in effect as well. All the things people are confused by, because those are the things that escape your notice when you have the curse of knowledge. You're like, how could you possibly get that wrong? Like, of course, TypeScript types don't exist at runtime. Like, there's no way that you could possibly do that. Like, that's something I get, 10 times a week. But having those confusions means that you can address them before they become problems, and you actually get to reach people where they are, which is really cool.
Yeah. And like you're talking about, like increasing efficiency before I make sure that that content velocity is as fast as possible so that when that feedback comes in, like I said, I get a notification on Slack. I've got a one-click button to open that particular lesson in the
Yeah.
studio, change that, hit publish, and know that that's fixed immediately for the next person. So that's always super important. When you're writing content now, like I know you're saying with the AI course, it's like a copy and paste a prompt. I've started to think about, well, the content I'm writing isn't necessarily just for humans anymore. I'm writing these things, particularly when it comes to some of our newer APIs and features and things. I'm writing this so that hopefully the LLM consumes it, or somebody can send it to a link. Have you modified the way that you write in that regard because you're thinking, well, some not humans need to read this as well, or is it a matter of just writing for the right audience and it should be clear to both human and
So
LLM?
it's such an interesting question, and it's one that I haven't really had time to address myself, really. I'm not really writing reference material at the moment. I do sometimes write reference material, but I'm really fascinated by your thoughts on that as well. One thing I noticed when I was building my course is that when I was building the prompts, I thought, oh, maybe I should have like a prompt for the human, because it's an option for the human to like walk through the exercise themselves, and maybe a separate prompt for the LLM, right? So just sort of keep two prompts available. I was didn't really want to do that because that's twice as much writing, right? But what I realized actually is that if you write well for humans, it turns out that the AI actually responds really well to that. And so they kind of feed into each other, I think. I don't know how much like benefit you're going to get by targeting AI directly, although maybe I genuinely think the stuff that's easy to read for humans is also going to be really easy to read for AI. And that means linking between documents, making sure that like everything is really just tied together and you're using the same language everywhere. There's no sort of weird outstanding stuff. And that means docs need to be higher quality, actually, really.
Yeah. No, I felt the same. I think the easy thing a lot of people have been doing is like just having a markdown version of every page, and
Mm.
so like we've shipped that on our docs as well. But then I can't remember which service we were looking at recently, and instead of just a copy as markdown button, they had copy prompt, and I thought that and so it was actually written very differently. It was at the very beginning, it sort of said this is a best in class interpretation of how to configure these particular things. So it was the same content but written more as a prompt rather than a set of instructions for a human to follow through. So I think that's something I'll probably be investigating with the newer courses that we're doing is having
Mm.
separate, like the same content but written with a different angle. And I said this isn't a sanity advertisement, but we've now got these batteries included AI agent actions to be able to do that, to say, hey, take this content and write it as if it were a prompt for an LLM. So like that's going to be a one-click button thing to do, which is cool. So yeah, it shouldn't create twice the work, even though it sort of feels like twice the content, which
Just
is
on
nice
that
to
as
have.
well, there's something really interesting here, which is if you think about any knowledge, um, I tend to structure my courses like this, by the way. Any knowledge really represents a DAG, a directed acyclic graph, which is where you have the thing you want to learn, and then you have all of the dependent pieces of knowledge that you need to get to the thing that you want to learn. A lot of what I tend to do when I'm building courses is like, I used to do this actually on paper or on TL Draw, but so I used to sort of like literally draw the lines and arrows and sort of try to resolve any circular dependencies as well, where you have two things that kind of need to be taught together and you need to figure out an order.
Mm,
Like thinking about knowledge as a graph is actually incredibly useful for LLMs too, right? Because if you have a docs page that's relatively advanced, imagine if you had some sort of representation in your docs where you go, okay, copy this as a prompt, and it not only does it fetch that page, but it also fetches all the dependent pieces of knowledge that the LLM needs in order to actually grab and make use of that information. I think there is some real benefit that could be had there for sure.
yeah, definitely. It makes me think that because we have this concept of references as well, it would be possible to have every lesson actually linked to what are the concepts, what are the APIs in the documentation. Because that's what I've always seen the breakdown of docs and sort of education too, is that the docs is every documentation page is here is how this one thing works, where the Sanity Learn part is here's how these three things together achieve this goal. So that's where it probably would be relatively more useful to have a relationship to multiple different concepts within
For
a
sure.
lesson as well.
Yeah, and AIs would be really good at building that as well.
Mm. Yeah, it should be able to pick that out if I've skipped something over.
Definitely.
And now we've got even more work to do after this conversation. This is great.
I should say too that Total TypeScript is based on Sanity as well. We use Sanity as our CMS. So.
Oh, that's nice to hear. That's
Yeah.
That's excellent. Powering the very best. On TypeScript, XState, all these things. I think the first course I did of yours was actually the Zod course. So I like these sort of like going off into different divergence. When we talk about personal brand, and the shorthand is to say that you're the TypeScript guy, and I think it's a pretty good title to have. But actually, then seeing you move into AI and Effect and these other things, Effect is TypeScript based. But would it be fair to say that do you see your brand as I'm the TypeScript guy, or I am the trusted source of truth? I'm going to go deeper than anybody else. I'm going to speak with more clarity than anybody else. Like that's the actual brand behind the concept, isn't it? Because to tie yourself to any one technology would be actually potentially problematic. Because what if something comes and dethrones TypeScript soon enough? I don't know what could possibly do that, but imagine. So yeah, is there sort of the brand behind the brand is not just the product itself, is it?
Well, it's really interesting. I think I don't think I'm unique in having in being the guy of something. Like Dan Abramov. I don't know if he is anymore, really, if people think of him that way. But for a long time, he was the React guy, the React guy. If you followed like React at all on Twitter, you would follow Dan Abramov. And I'm interested. I'm going to pose you another question, which is, what is Kent C. Dodds' brand? What is he? What is, if you were to say he is the blank guy, what guy is he?
It's funny. I would have said he was the testing guy, but then I would have said he was the React guy. Then I would have said he was the remix guy, and now he's the AI guy.
Yeah, he's got a sort of like prismatic setup where I had a friend actually who ran two businesses at once. He ran a totally different businesses. He organized triathlons and he cleaned people's chimneys. So he talked for ages about, I kind of want a van that has cleaning chimneys on one side and triathlons on the other, so that if people look at me from different angles, they see both of my businesses. If I drive up and down the same road, people get twice the advertising. And so Kent sort of gets a bit of that. He gets to ride a few horses at once, right? Which is not an easy dance to do. And he does it just by being a really, really good teacher. And so I think it's possible to do that. I think by being the TypeScript guy, it gets me just insane benefits, which is that it's just a constant influx of new people learning about me because there's an element of word of mouth there. So I would be mad to give that up, I think. And I really still like TypeScript. I've sort of deepened my relationship to it over time. I went to Seattle recently and got to meet Anders Harsberg and meet the TypeScript team. And I still really like it. And I think they're one of the best teams in the world for building this stuff. So I think that although in the other direction, I do need to be producing new types of content. If I say, there's a new Total TypeScript thing coming out, it's not as exciting as there's this new thing I'm working on coming out, like Total Effect or AI Hero 2 is a new thing. So yeah, I don't know what the answer is, and I've actually given different answers on different podcasts, I think it's possible to ride two horses, but I also just like riding the horse that I'm on.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And I like when you said different types of content. I'm sure there was pun intended in there as well.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Can't even hear the puns anymore. There's so many possible.
I thought from one dad to another we could get on with puns and dad jokes and that. Look, I won't take too much more of your time. Something that I think you have a great advantage of as well is that you have all of this vocal training behind you, where the rest of us all just buy a light box and a fancy camera and a microphone. How necessary do you think that is to be able to have that base? Do you think more content creators could benefit from vocal therapy, vocal training, so to speak?
I think having this voice, I didn't always have this voice. This voice is the result of training. I think it is.
You said that the other day. That's fascinating to me. That this is your talking voice is a trained voice. That's incredible.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's more just it's evidence of a healthy voice, I suppose, and because voice training is all about increasing ease, reducing tension, making sure that that you're speaking in as healthy a way as possible. And often singing teachers will start with the speaking voice. Actually, if there's any problems in the speaking voice, obviously it's all the same gear, so that translates into the singing voice too. So I think obviously that's cool that I have this funny voice. But I think what it really helped me with is just my ability to improvise, my ability to talk about things in without needing much of a script, because that has paid massive dividends in just cutting out more cycles in terms of creating content. Because I don't need to come down and just type something out and then read from it. I don't have an auto cue or anything. I just talk, and from that, it just means, oh my god, it's so much less friction. And of course, that's not an option to people who speaking in their second language, for instance, as well. So if you need to write scripts, obviously you write scripts, get an AI to help you write a script. But then also there's an element of performing the script as well, which is a sort of different job too. So I think while it's been useful having this nice, healthy voice to speak with, the improvisation thing is really the key thing that I learned. And that's available to anyone, really. Like, if you can get ahead of yourself when you're speaking, if you can learn to be a little bit more calm when you're speaking, it gives you more options for what you want to say next. And just practicing. You don't necessarily need fancy vocal training in order to do it. It's just practice.
That's interesting that improvisation can be taught. Like, I imagine it could be improved, but I think I probably over rely on that personally, as you're just being able to shoot from the hip and talk nonstop. And I'm in this point where I'm thinking about getting a teleprompter, because I've seen people who use those and they look so much more professional. I think that feels great, but I just don't know if I've got it in me to actually read words off a screen.
I've thought about it for a while, and I just don't think I have the patience. I think I'd just start randomly improvising. Yeah.
That's glad. I'm glad. I'll finish on that note, because I feel like now I've got permission to not buy a teleprompter, which is excellent. All right, very good. Where do we send people if they want more Matt Pocock in their lives? Because you're everywhere at the moment. So is there a central point of that we should send people to?
If you fancy AI content, go to aihero.dev. If you fancy TypeScript and effect content, go to totaltypescript.com. I recently put up a landing page for if you want to learn more about effect. I'm still umming and ahhing about creating a course. Not sure if there's the market for it, but I'm getting pretty decent response so far. So if you fancy an effect course, go to totaltypescript.com/effect. Or you find me on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever.
Excellent. All right. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much, Simeon.